The unexplained hotel. You won't believe what happened. Some places exist in silence. Some places hold on to the past, and some places trap those who enter, never letting them leave the same. Tonight's story is about a hotel that shouldn't exist, a guest who should have never checked in, and a night that changed reality forever. A late-night detour. It started like any other road trip. James was driving across the country, moving to a new city for a fresh start. He had left home before sunset, planning to drive through the night. But as midnight approached, exhaustion hit him hard. His GPS glitched. His phone died unexpectedly. That's when he saw it. A hotel on the side of a deserted highway. A place that looked far too old to still be in business. The neon sign flickered in the dark. Evermore Hotel, vacancy. James had never seen this place before, and it wasn't on his map. But at that moment, he didn't care. He just needed a bed for the night. A lobby from another era. The moment he stepped inside, something felt off. The lobby was too quiet, the air too still. The furniture looked like it belonged in the 1920s, ornate, dusty, untouched. Behind the front desk, a woman stood completely still. Her smile never faded. Her eyes never blinked. "Welcome, Mr. Harper," she said. James froze. He had never given her his name. Still, he nodded. Yeah, just for the night." She handed him a silver key. "Room 306. Then she leaned forward and whispered, "Stay inside your room, no matter what you hear." A room that felt wrong. The hallway was too long, the doors too far apart. James found room 306 at the very end. He stepped inside. The room was clean but outdated, like it hadn't changed in nearly a century. A large antique mirror stood against the wall. The air felt colder near it. James ignored the strange feeling, locked the door, and collapsed onto the bed. But as soon as he turned off the lights, the whispers started. The whispers from the hallway. It was soft at first, a faint murmur, like a conversation just outside his door. Then a single knock. Slow, deliberate. James sat up. The knock came again. Then a voice. "Let me in." It wasn't a request. It was a command. The hallway that never ended. James held his breath. The knocking grew louder. Then it moved, from the door to the walls to the ceiling. Something was crawling above him. He grabbed his phone, but the screen was dead. Then, the mirror. A shadow moved inside it. James turned toward the door. But when he opened it, the hallway had changed. It was longer now. The walls were rotting, the lights flickered, and at the far end, a figure was standing there. The woman in the hallway. She was tall and thin, dressed in an old black gown. Her hair hung over her face, but James could see her grin. And then she started walking toward him. Slow at first, then faster. James slammed the door shut, but when he turned, she was inside the mirror. The room that wouldn't let him leave. James grabbed his bag and ran for the door, but the knob wouldn't turn. The lights flickered violently. The mirror rattled, and inside it, the woman was smiling wider. She raised her hand, pressed her palm against the glass. James felt cold fingers brush his shoulder. He spun around, but there was no one behind him, just his own reflection. Except, his reflection wasn't moving. It was staring at him, smiling, waiting. Then, it whispered, "You shouldn't be here." James threw a chair at the mirror. Glass shattered. The lights went out. For a moment, pure silence. Then, a hand grabbed his ankle. Cold, strong, unforgiving. He kicked, scrambled. The door swung open. James ran into the hallway, but it was different now. The walls were crumbling. The doors were all numbered 306. He ran toward the lobby, but the front desk was gone. Everything was gone. And then, a voice in his ear. "You can't leave." The hotel that was never there. James woke up on the side of the road. His car was still running. The hotel? Gone. No building, no sign, no proof it ever existed. But in his hand, a rusty key, with a tag that read room 306. Some places shouldn't exist. James searched for the hotel. Asked locals. No one had ever heard of it. No one had seen it. But late at night, when he's alone, he sometimes hears knocking on his door. Slow, deliberate, and once, He found a message in his bathroom mirror, written in the fog after a hot shower. 3 words: "Let me in." What's the truth? Some hotels don't just take guests, they keep them. So if you ever find yourself lost on the highway, and you see a hotel that wasn't there before, keep driving. Because if you check in, you might never check out. What do you think? Have you ever stayed somewhere that felt wrong? Have you ever seen a hotel that shouldn't be there? Let me know in the comments. And if you enjoyed this chilling tale, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more terrifying stories. Until next time, sleep well. The Chilling Hotel, a nightmare come to life. Some hotels offer a place to rest, some hotels hide dark secrets, and some never let you leave. This is the story of a traveler, a storm, and a hotel that should not exist. The Storm and the Empty Road. Eric was driving through rural Pennsylvania late at night, heading home from a business trip. The highway was empty, rain pounding against his windshield, and his GPS suddenly lost signal. He had been driving for hours, exhausted, when the storm worsened. Lightning flashed, illuminating the deserted road ahead. That's when he saw it. A neon sign flickering in the distance. Vacancy. Moonlight Inn. The sign buzzed with static, casting a dull glow onto the wet pavement. Eric sighed in relief. He wasn't one to stay at old roadside motels, but at this point, he needed a break. He pulled into the small parking lot, noticing only one other car. The building looked old, too old. The wooden structure seemed out of place, like it belonged in a different time. But the rain was relentless, and Eric was too tired to care. The receptionist who knew too much. He stepped inside. The air was thick, heavy, carrying a strange smell, like old books and something metallic. The front desk was empty, the small brass bell covered in dust. Then from the shadows, a man appeared. An old receptionist, wearing a uniform that seemed decades out of style. His eyes were hollow, his face expressionless. "You need a room?" the man asked in a voice that sounded too smooth, almost like a recording. Eric hesitated. Something about this place felt off, but the rain pounded against the windows and exhaustion won over paranoia. "Yes, just for the night," Eric said. The receptionist nodded, handing him an actual brass key, not a key card. Room 306, end of the hall. No ID check, no paperwork, just the key. The room that wasn't empty. The hallway was eerily silent. The lights flickered, casting long shadows on the carpeted floor. Eric found room 306 and inserted the key. The lock clicked too easily, like the door had been waiting for him. The room was surprisingly clean but felt too perfect, like a replica of a motel room rather than a real one. The furniture looked untouched, the bed perfectly made, the old rotary phone sitting on the nightstand. As he placed his bag down, something caught his eye: the closet door. It was slightly open. His stomach turned. He was sure it had been closed when he walked in. Slowly, he reached out, pulled the door open. Nothing. Just an empty closet. Exhaling, Eric laughed at himself. "I'm too tired for this," he muttered, kicking off his shoes and lying down on the bed. As soon as his head hit the pillow, he drifted off. The sound that shouldn't be there. Somewhere in the middle of the night, a sound woke him. Thump, thump, thump. Slow, heavy, coming from the closet. Eric's eyes shot open, his pulse pounding in his ears. He sat up, staring at the closet door. It was open again. Only this time. Something was inside, a shadow, motionless, standing just beyond the doorframe. It didn't move. It didn't breathe. It just watched. Eric felt a wave of cold paralyzing his body. His mind screamed for him to move, to run, but he couldn't. Then the shadow stepped forward. Eric threw himself off the bed, scrambling toward the door. He grabbed the handle and twisted, locked. The shadow took another step. It was closer now, and for the first time, Eric saw its face. It was him. Not just a reflection, but an exact, twisted version of himself. Its eyes were hollow, its mouth stretched into an unnatural grin, and then it spoke. "You checked in, now you never leave." The impossible escape. Eric grabbed the nightstand lamp and threw it at the figure. The light shattered, and the shadow vanished. Panting, he yanked at the door handle again. This time it opened. The hallway was pitch black. The neon lights outside were gone. The storm, silent. He ran toward the front desk. The lobby was different. It looked older. The wallpaper was peeling, the furniture covered in dust. The receptionist was gone, and the entrance door? Bricked up. Eric felt panic claw at his throat. He turned and saw the wall behind the front desk. A framed newspaper hung there, yellowed with time. Moonlight in Tragedy, 1965. The article detailed a fire that had killed an entire group of travelers, trapping them inside. Among the black and white photos, there was a picture, a guest list, and at the bottom, Eric's name, his exact name. The ink looked fresh, like it had to final choice. A whisper slid through the room. Checkout time. Eric turned and saw himself standing at the top of the stairs, the shadow version. The twisted, grinning copy. It tilted its head, waiting, watching. Eric didn't think. He bolted toward the back exit, hoping, praying. The door swung open. Cold air hit his face. He stumbled outside, and suddenly, he was on the highway. No rain, no storm. His car was there, engine still running, as if he had never left. He turned back. The Moonlight Inn was gone. Just an empty field, like it had never existed. The warning, Eric never spoke of that night, but sometimes when he drives alone, he sees a neon sign flickering in the distance. Vacancy, Moonlight Inn. He doesn't stop, and if you ever find yourself on a lonely highway, tired, lost, and desperate for a place to rest, keep driving. Because some places should not exist, and some places are always looking for their next guest. That's tonight's story. If you ever stayed in a hotel that felt too quiet or too empty, maybe you weren't alone. If you liked this story, subscribe and hit the notification bell for more terrifying tales. And let me know in the comments, have you ever checked into a place that didn't feel right? Until next time, sleep well. The Haunted Forest, what they don't want you to know. Some forests are meant to be explored. Some forests hold dark secrets, and some forests are best left alone. This is the story of Blackwood Forest, a place where people vanish without a trace, where whispers echo through the trees, and where something unseen waits for its next victim. The Forgotten Woods. Deep in rural Oregon, there's a stretch of wilderness that no one dares to enter after dark. It's not marked on any official maps. There are no signs, no trails, and no record of anyone ever living there, but the locals know its name. Blackwood Forest. They speak of it in hushed tones, warning travelers to stay away, to turn back if they ever find themselves on the wrong road, because those who go in don't always come back. The disappearances. For decades, people have vanished in Blackwood Forest. Hikers, campers, hunters. No bodies, no signs of struggle, just gone. The strangest part, those who do return don't remember what happened. They emerge from the woods hours or even days later, dazed, confused, with no memory of how they got there. Some are found muttering strange words, speaking in a language no one understands. Some refuse to talk at all, and some go back, as if something is calling them. In 2017, a group of college students decided to prove the legends wrong. They planned a weekend camping trip, bringing cameras, flashlights, and weapons, just in case. They laughed off the warnings from the locals, but by the second night, they weren't laughing anymore. The night in the woods. At first, everything was normal. They set up camp near a clearing, started a fire, and took turns telling ghost stories. Then, just past midnight, the forest went silent. No wind, no insects, no sound at all. Then a whisper, a soft, distant voice echoing through the trees. They shined their flashlights, searching for the source. Nothing, just darkness. Then the laughter began, the shadows that move. The laughter wasn't human, it was distorted, hollow, like it was coming from all around them. Then one of them, Jake, pointed toward the tree line, and they saw them, figures, tall, thin, unmoving. Standing just beyond the firelight. Their faces were featureless, their heads tilted slightly, watching. Jake yelled, threw a rock. The moment it hit the ground, the figures disappeared. The group panicked, grabbed their gear, and ran for their truck. But the forest had changed. The path they had come from was gone. The vanishing path, no matter which way they turned, the trees seemed to shift around them. Every direction led them deeper into the woods. Their flashlights flickered. The laughter grew closer. A scream. Jake was gone. Vanished in the blink of an eye. The group called his name, searched every direction, but the only response was a whisper. "You shouldn't have come." Then, the trees opened. They stumbled into a clearing, their truck right in front of them. They didn't question it. They jumped in, started the engine, and sped away. The final horror. The next morning, Jake was found, standing at the edge of the forest, motionless, expressionless. His clothes were the same, but his eyes, completely black. When the police questioned him, he said one thing before falling silent forever. "It let me go, for now." Jake was never the same. He stopped speaking, stopped eating. 1 year later, disappeared again. This time, he never came back. The warning, Blackwood Forest is still there, still waiting. And sometimes on the edge of the tree line, people swear they see figures, watching, smiling, waiting for the next traveler to step too close. If you ever find yourself on a back road and the forest seems too quiet, turn around, because some places aren't haunted by ghosts, some places are alive. That's tonight's story. If you ever felt like you were being watched in the woods, maybe you were. If you liked this story, subscribe and hit the notification bell for more terrifying tales. And let me know in the comments, have you ever seen something in the forest that wasn't supposed to be there? Until next time, sleep well.